SayItInACard.com is an online greeting card company that delivers right to your front door. Visit our website, www.SayItInACard.com. You can read the cards, order the cards, and we ship them directly to you. If you feel it, we say it in a card. We have breakup cards, troubled relationship cards, troubled friendship cards, and of course all of the traditional cards as well, from birthday to Mother's Day. So again, visit us at www.SayItInACard.com. Free shipping for a limited time. Good day, thinkers, thought leaders, progressives, and dreamers. I'm Craig, the writer Stewart, and this is So Much to Say. These are my thoughts in my voice on black shit, white shit, gay shit, and everything in between. Today, I'm having a conversation with my assistant, Nikki. Well, Nikki's son, Shane, is autistic. I wanted to have a conversation about autism, but through the eyes and through the voice of a child. Do me a favor, share this podcast with your friends, your family, and your network, because I really do think this will give us a different perspective on autism. This is very personal work for me.
Politics.
I believe I was called to tell my story, use my voice, be a voice for the community, to speak to and for a community of people that's been ignored, denied,
love,
overlooked.
relationships, religion.
This is my life's work.
Religion.
I want to use words to uplift, heal, inspire, encourage.
Do something different.
Every Monday at 10.
You wanted to do what?
Intellectual property.
You wanted to say?
It's intellectual. What does that mean?
It means that he came up with it, and it's his. It belongs to him.
So I came up with macaroni, cheese, bologna.
Intellectual property is like if it's your idea, something that you thought of, something you conceived.
So macaroni.
So what you wanted to say? Good day, thinkers, thought leaders?
No, I just give up.
Oh, now you don't want to say it?
Yeah.
Okay, well listen, we're here with Nikki and her son Shane. You're how old, Shane? 9 years old, and I wanted to have you on because I wanted you to kind of share with us. Let me have this. I wanted you to kind of share with us, to give us an idea of what it's like to see what you see, to think what you think, just to help us understand, because there may be some parents that are listening that have children that are autistic, and they may not really understand their children, but I think you have a really good way of explaining it. And I remember your mom telling me you had said something about the way that you see things. Do you remember that, Nikki, what you were sharing with me?
Where he said that sometimes in his head it feels like when a little kid or a little child has a crayon or a pencil and they scribble, he said sometimes that's how like information is in his head.
So information like from a teacher or something that you're telling him to do?
Just period, because coupled with the autism is the ADHD.
Okay.
So that hyper part.
Right.
So he thinks about randomness all day. And for most people, we are able to filter out our thoughts and kind of, prioritize.
Right.
Or even with conversing, you're able to stay on the topic.
Mm-hmm.
With him, it's like traffic in Atlanta. Rush hour traffic. It's so much going on.
It's busy,
that sometimes you have to reel it back in.
Right. So is autism, is it a chemical, quote unquote, imbalance, or is it chromosomal?
So I believe that it's chemical.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a wide range on the spectrum. And I'm in a Facebook group for parents of children with autism and ADHD. Mm-hmm. But for some people, I see their stories and I'm like, wow.
Because you think they're the more extreme cases?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, some of them, it's like, and my heart goes out because you have parents who are like, I can't do this no more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have to get rid, they're putting my other children in danger. They're threatening me. And there are some who are nonverbal. Mm-hmm. Some who don't have the necessary skills to be able to live on their own ever. Mm-hmm. Fortunately for us, Shane is what they consider on the higher end of the spectrum with Asperger's.
I was just going to mention Asperger's. So can you explain to the people listening what Asperger's is? Because it's basically like a close cousin to autism, right?
It is autism.
Okay.
It's just, so it is autism. Like I said, there are different, I hate to say this, but there are different levels to it. And Asperger's seems to be the most common that I found out. But it's still one of those things where it affects people differently. Most people with Asperger's, though, do have higher IQs than most, which he does.
But see, and that's the thing. I've always kind of felt like the reason why he won't sit still, or maybe because like you've told me stories like in school where he will sometimes get up and just leave the classroom.
But that
you think that's more of the ADHD?
That is definitely
and
it's
see,
the
and
impulsivity,
right? And I'm sure it is, but I'm thinking that because like you were saying about the higher IQ and that kind of thing, I just think they're probably bored. You understand what I'm saying? Like the stuff, it's not holding their attention.
Well,
so their vibration is on a higher level. Their intellect.
It's really weird because when he was in preschool, he had this wonderful teacher who then went on maternity leave, and he had a substitute. He and the substitute teacher, they did not click because by the time he got to preschool, you know, they're going over days of the week, months, colors. He already knew that stuff, so it wasn't holding his attention. And so she started, at first she would call me all the time because he wasn't cooperating. Like I told her, I'm not coming back up there. You figure it out. He already knows it. So she sent him to the kindergarten classroom so that she could teach the other kids. The kindergarten teacher, she didn't want him to feel left out. So this one Friday, she was giving out a spelling test, or like a Wednesday or something. She was giving out a spelling test. So she gave him the paper that she gives her class. And, you know, she said the words, and he wrote down the answers. And she said, I didn't show him the words. And I said, okay. I mean, because he was reading then, too.
So do you think it's a thing that maybe in that case, he should have probably been skipped? They should have probably jumped him to the next grade, maybe?
So with that, okay, hold on, we're getting there. They ended up giving him a gifted test and the kindergarten readiness assessment test. With the kindergarten readiness assessment test, he missed one question, and technically the proctor said he didn't miss it, it just wasn't the answer they were looking for. Like he gave a logical answer. And for the gifted test, he scored extremely high. As a matter of fact, they submitted him for Mensa. And for those that don't know what Mensa is like a club for really smart people. But he missed about 1 point, and they told me to just reapply him because if that's where he's testing at 3, he'll always fall within that range. But the thing was, doing the work he could do, maturity wise, he can't. And a lot of times, people with ADHD, they are so smart that we forget. I mean, not with ADHD, with autism, we forget that they're still children.
Right.
So even though he's as smart as he is, maturity-wise, he's not there. And for a lot of children with autism, mentally, they say he'll be a couple of ages behind, mature-wise.
And just for those of you that are listening, Asperger syndrome is a developmental disorder characterized by significant difficulties in social interaction and nonverbal communication, along with restricted and repetitive patterns of behavior and interest. So the way that I've always understood Asperger's is it's kind of like where you don't really have the social skills, quote unquote, like where you interact and communicate, and you know, that outgoing kind of personality where people just can kind of just talk to anybody, talk to a stranger. They're more kind of like closed or reclusive.
Yes and no. So it's more so along the lines of that socio-emotional aspect. So whereas, let's say someone might have died, they might not have that emotional aspect to show empathy. Or with the social aspect, staying on topic. If everybody in your circle, if we're all talking about books and you're constantly jumping into the conversation,
but not talking about
you're not
that
on the subject. And those are things that we tend to work on. Like, he has no problem coming up to people talking. People older than him, he bonds with. He's able to hold a conversation with. People his own age, he does not gravitate towards. He gravitates towards people who are younger than he is.
So, Shane, do you feel like you learn differently or see things differently or hear information differently?
Sometimes I just feel like the information I see and hear just doesn't communicate with my brain properly. Like sometimes I could be hearing something about me having to go to the doctor, and I sometimes don't hear like the last part or the beginning of a sentence. So I think someday we're gonna go to the doctor, and I'm not dressed to go to the doctor. And then my mom says like, saying we have to go to the doctor, and then my autism starts coming in, and then everything else starts coming in. So then I ask her to restate the question, so the sentence, so that way I can be ready. But sometimes it just feels like I don't really understand the first, middle, or last beginning of a statement.
So sometimes you don't understand the first part, the middle, or the last part of a statement.
Yes.
So you were saying like if she's saying we're going to go to the doctors, you're not really getting ready right now because you're not thinking that she's talking about now.
Yes.
Okay.
And you know, the first thing that I noticed, my mom and I actually, that made us think like he might have autism, was the repetitiveness. He used to, and now he's moved up. Like before, he would tap, almost like he was keeping time, tap his leg. Now he rocks,
Like rocks back and forth.
And one of my cousins is autistic, but she's more along the nonverbal. And this was when she got diagnosed. This was way back in the early 90s when, and at first we thought she was deaf.
Right, and they really didn't have a lot of information.
They really didn't. But that was something she did. She rocked a lot. And she didn't make eye contact either, which was another thing with him. You have to kind of, hey.
Well, he makes eye contact now. I've never noticed. I've never not seen him make eye contact with me.
Oh yeah, he'll start there, and then it's like.
Well, I mean, but you know, I kind of like most children don't really give you eye contact. You got look at me. You know what I mean? You got to kind of say that. But with him, I know, and that's another thing that I've noticed genetically. Young girls, they tend to give you more eye contact than little boys do. But see, eye contact has always been like a sign of maturity, and we all know that girls tend to mature faster than boys.
Well, you know, with autism, girls are diagnosed with autism a lot less than boys because a lot of times the things that they look for in autism, it's like, oh, well, she's a girl, she's just being bossy because they're loud,
right?
And he doesn't like loud sounds, and he's usually the loudest person in the room. But that's just, girls are just loud anyway. So a lot of things, especially with females, it gets written off.
So I know at one point when we first started kind of hearing about autism, they were trying to ascribe it to like vaccinations and stuff. So like, has that been like ruled out, or like is that still kind of like a concern?
I've only read one case where a family won millions saying that it was linked to vaccines. I don't know, but I will say I did not see a change in him until he maybe was about 3. And that's when I saw a shift. So
for you, it's ADHD and autism. So how has it played out? Does it, I know you said when he had the teacher that went out on maternity leave, but does it impair or impact?
What I've learned on this journey is that when we were in Ohio, he had predominantly Caucasian teachers.
Which is where you're from.
Yes. And every little thing that he did was deemed aggressive. Like I remember them calling me because he growled at the teacher in preschool. And they wanted me to come get him. When we moved to Atlanta, when he was in the 1st grade, he had another Caucasian teacher. And I'm up at the school all the time. I ended up pulling him out to homeschool, and he went back 3rd grade. This time, he has African American teachers. I don't get the calls as much. They have a whole system of how to deal with him. We've set up an IEP. He has a paraprofessional that he works with. Like, it really takes a group to be able to. He used to have outbursts that the therapist told us he would get overstimulated. So, you know, when you walk into elementary classrooms, they got all this stuff on the walls and colorful. That's overwhelming. Loud noises, overwhelming.
So to me, it sounds like there needs to be like specialized schools, a specialized classrooms.
There are specialized schools, but
you were saying that they were very expensive.
They are very expensive. But I have always raised him to not feel any different. He just does things different.
He just processes differently.
Autism is not who he is. It's just a diagnosis. And with that, you know, because you can't control everything. You cannot control the environment everywhere. Some things are going to be overwhelming.
Right.
And we've worked on just focusing on one thing, and you have to learn how to block all that stuff out. And I've had to come up with coping mechanisms for him. Some things work, some things don't. And like his pediatrician, she wants us, of course, for the ADHD to be put on Adderall XR. And I got it, but I couldn't make myself give it to him. And I'm not going to give it to him. So we just, it's like his paraprofessional, we count down. And I think the thing that I think will help a lot too is meditation. I myself, my brain runs at 1,000 miles per minute. So it's hard for me to actually sit down and meditate. So I haven't been able to work with him. We downloaded an app that we were supposed to do. We did it for like, how many nights? 3 nights. We did it for 3 nights, and then that was it. But I do think that meditation would probably help, because it would teach him breathing techniques instead of him getting up and walking out the classroom.
So when was the last time he got up and when was the last time you got up and walked out of the classroom?
I think that might be in August. Wait.
Ooh, tell the truth now.
I don't remember.
Definitely about a week or so ago.
I did not.
You did.
So
too.
what are you thinking when you just get up and walk? What's happening in the classroom, or what's happening in your mind when you get up and just leave the classroom?
Or like most of my body, like my body is telling me to go back, but I'm already committed in the motion.
You're already committed in the motion. No, but wait, take me to when you're sitting in your chair in the classroom. What sparks you? What provokes you to get up? Like, what do you?
Like when people get me angry, or if there's just too much going in the classroom, and in the hallways of the classroom. In the hallways, there's not really that much going on. There's just another.
So it's calmer in the hallways.
Yes.
So has it ever occurred to you, when you get that feeling to get up and leave the classroom, to go over to the teacher and say, "I feel a little overwhelmed. Can I step like outside in the hallway?"
Well, I think that only happened once.
What happened once? You asked the teacher if you could step out?
Yes.
And what did?
Because in first grade, I was really good at doing that. And then as I gotten older, it gets more, out of control.
It gets a little more out of control as you get older.
Until at this point, because when I was homeschooled, I couldn't really do anything except do my work, and then eat lunch, and then play games for recess. But then as I gotten older, I've gotten this little bit of freedom. Like
a little bit of freedom.
Yes, a little bit of freedom. And then I was like, so I can basically just do this now. But maybe I don't want to do that.
And a thing is, he's very manipulative. So he knew, like, okay, if I go tell the teacher, like, I need to go into my corner, it stops me from doing my work. So then he would take advantage of the corner. And that's, and that's one of the things when he get a new teacher and I tell him, he's manipulative. He will, you got to be strong in it. Because it's like a Sour Patch Kid. He blows up, he gets angry, and then it's, you are the most beautiful person I have ever met.
So does it like subside as a person that's autistic gets older? Like, does it subside?
I've been told that it does. I've heard that the years when he hits puberty are going to be the worst.
Because all of the emotion and chemical stuff that's going on in puberty.
Yes. But it's, I mean, I don't know. I get overwhelmed sometimes.
So what are your biggest challenges?
Focus. Because I know he can do the work. They know he can do the work. We just got to get him to focus long enough to do the work, and just being able to control those outbursts.
So how do you draw the line between just behavioral problems because he's 9 and okay, he's autistic?
So
how do you separate the two?
So I don't, because I'm trying to be realistic in the fact that my belief is that once he leaves outside my door, nobody cares about him, his issues like I do. And unfortunately, that's a harsh fact. And in our country, people with conditions, they really don't care about. And so he's got to learn to control it. So, I mean, I give him things. We have our CBD oil.
I was just going to ask you about that.
The focus teas that I get custom blend. And of course, I'm telling you, I think that the meditation will work because he's going to have to control that. When he gets out into the real world, nobody's going to care that he's autistic.
So explain to them about the CBD. You said oils or soap? Because I know you had soap.
Oil. I have soap that he has taken a liking to.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know what CBD is, I'm pretty sure most of you do, but CBD is the...
So marijuana has two components. It has the THC, and that is what gets you high. Excuse me. And then it has the CBD, which is the relaxation part. And marijuana, they take it. There are different ways to extract it, and you get an oil. The oil that I order is from Colorado, and on this website, they put all of their testing on there. They don't use chemicals to do the separation. And his is a full spectrum CBD oil, meaning it has just a little bit of THC in it.
Which is the piece that gets you high.
Yes. But it overall, like at first I was using them independently of each other. I would give him the CBD oil, or he would drink the tea, but then I realized that they work better together. Because
you have the CBD tea as well.
Yeah.
Like an herbal tea.
Yes.
And then there's the soap. The oil, how do you administer the oil? Is it on his skin, or is it something that he takes?
I drop it under his tongue. He holds it there for 30 seconds before he swallows.
And how often do you do the drops?
I give him, he was up to 4 drops in the morning, and then 4 drops in the evening.
And you notice a difference?
Yeah, the teachers noticed the difference. But we still needed a little more because with the ADHD, you have that that impulsivity, that lack of control.
The thinking problem.
And you prefer to do this, which is more of a homeopathic way than to do like the Adderall and that kind of thing. Which I'm.
Well, I read about it, and I look at these stories in my parenting group, and I'm just so scared. Because the Adderall has like basically meth in there. Yeah,
and then once you get connected on those, and they pretty much stay on those things.
Yeah,
like, there's no coming off. Right.
And they just switch medications.
And then once it's on your file as a child, that it's on your record, that carries and follows you forever.
Well, before he got diagnosed, that was my thought. But then I had this realization. They've already labeled him. So if they're going to label him, I prefer that it's the right label. So with him finally getting a diagnosis, he gets the help that he needs. Especially with the paraprofessional, who sometimes comes in, she'll sit with him while he does his work to keep him focused. Like I know she was telling me last year, he had a test, some state test that he had to do.
It was a milestone.
No, it wasn't the milestone. It was another test. And he wanted to get on iReady. And she was like, Shane, you have to finish this test.
What's iReady?
iReady is a program that they use in schools now. It's like they do math and reading on there. And, so he's steady talking to her, and he's doing the work, and then he gets on iReady. And she's like, Shane, I told you that you had to do this test. He was like, I'm finished with the test. And she said, he just chatty and talking. And see, for him, he can multitask like that sometimes. Mm-hmm. But if you're in a classroom, it's a distraction for everybody else.
Mm-hmm. So he had completed the task.
His Georgia milestone, they said he finished it in like 15 minutes.
And I got a 3.
And what?
I got a 3.
What's a 3?
So, a 3 is basically like a B.
Mm-hmm. The milestone, you get numbers. 1 is like you need a lot of work. 2 is
also a 0.
Oh, 0 through 4. Mm-hmm. 4 being
the highest.
So he got 3s on some, a 4 on one. Mm-hmm. But they told him to go back and check, and he was like, I did. Mm-hmm. And he did what he was supposed to do, and they end up putting him in the gifted program.
So you said you had a cousin, a female that so are these the only 2 relatives that you know of that? Because I'm wondering if it's a genetic thing that kind of passes down.
I think so. I have cousins who have
ADHD.
They got a whole host of alphabets going on that side.
And what about on his dad's side? Do you know?
Not that I'm aware. Although I do think that his dad has ADD or ADHD and could possibly be bipolar. Mm-hmm.
So, do you think that because
I think I might have ADHD because the way that my brain works, and then I saw this thing on the internet and I was reading it, and in reading it I'm like, oh my goodness, this is me. Mm-hmm. So I think that, it's possible, and I've never been diagnosed. I've always been, growing up, maybe your average C student until I got to college. But when I got to college, the way that teaching was done changed. It wasn't so much read a book, it was more lecture. Mm-hmm. And I learned better that way. Mm-hmm. So I went from being your average C student to now I'm on the dean's list. Mm-hmm. And back then, we didn't make that correlation. It was just like, hey, look at me, I'm doing it. Mm-hmm. But by the time I went to grad school, I had pinpointed it.
Right. So what role do you think being a single mom plays in all of this? And do you think it's more stressful because of that?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You definitely need a village. Mm-hmm. Because with the ADHD, he has the energy of 10 kids. Mm-hmm. And it's nonstop moving. It's nonstop talking. With the autism piece, he has no personal boundaries. So he's in your space, he's in my space, and I don't like that. Mm-hmm. I'm not a in your face type person, so it drives me crazy. But I also don't want him to feel like he can't get a hug from me, he can't get a kiss from me. But I don't like that all the time. Mm-hmm. But I don't want him to feel like he's not loved either. Right. And sometimes I need a mental break. Sometimes I have allowed the Xbox and YouTube to be the babysitter when I need it to be, because with anybody, when you need to relax, you want to relax. Right. And as a single parent, you don't get that. And as a single parent of a child who is twice gifted, right, you really don't get that.
So Shane, what does that make you feel, or what do you hear your mom saying?
Basically, I just hear her crying and all. Sometimes she just has to have like a break from some things, and I being like okay, and then like later in of the day I just forget that she needs a break.
So what did you understand her saying just now?
So what I understand her saying is that sometimes she will need a break from me, and other times she just needs me, my very short-term memory brain, I think.
Your very short-term memory brain? Yes. So, do you does it hurt your feelings to hear her say that, or no?
Sometimes.
What hurts your feelings?
Like sometimes I just feel like, what if I was never meant to be in this world?
Wait, say that again.
Sometimes I wonder if I was never meant to be in this world. Like,
in this world?
Yeah, I was just like something that was dropped off. Something that wasn't even. Something that was just like,
Something dropped off from where?
Like space. Like I was just nothing basically.
Well, no, that's not what she's saying.
Like no, like sometimes I can see like what's happening around me, but other times like sometimes I can see in front of me, like what I see in front of me. But then other times my vision goes like everywhere. Like so I'm looking at the sides, but I'm also looking at the front. So sometimes it may look like the people that I'm not paying attention, even though I am looking at them. So then they say, "Saying, look where I am," and I say, "I am," and then I get in trouble. But I am.
And then you get in trouble.
Yeah, because I am looking at them. But like I can if I look right here, I can see here and here.
Well, that's your peripheral vision. You ever heard of that?
Yes.
Peripheral vision. So, like, even though I'm looking straight ahead, I can still see you, and I can see over here as well because my peripheral vision. That's your side vision.
But the thing is, other times, like when I wake up, I can't see things. So, I open my eye, like I close and open my eyes, and then I can see things.
So does it feel frustrating to you at times, or no?
Sometimes it just feels like I wish I could just get a break. I wish I could turn all of this off and do something I want to do.
Turn what off?
Like, I mean, turn off my ADHD, turn off my autism. I just don't want it. I just want it gone.
So what is it? What would you turn off in particular, though? Like, is it something that you do that you would turn off, or something that you feel, something that you think?
I just turn off anger.
Turn off anger.
Being that that's the one thing I have trouble with controlling, I just think, hey, it's gotta be better if I take it off.
But I've never seen you angry.
Mainly because she's around.
Oh, because she's around.
Yes.
So when you're angry, what kind of things make you angry?
Like being ignored.
By whom?
Like people who I know can hear me but still talk over me.
Like classmates, or what do you mean?
Like sometimes people need help for a question that they can't solve by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So the teacher gets me to help them, and then they don't want to learn it from me. So then I'm like, if you wanted to learn from someone, it's best if you just learn from me, so you can get the questions right on the milestones. So
it's best that they learn it from you.
Yes, because the teacher always says that the milestone, some of these questions are gonna be on the milestones, and so when people get it right, the people who need the help, give the person help. Like they sit at a group table, then the person works out the problem, and then the person solves another problem in their heads. And then, like, when that problem solved in their heads, they give the other people the problems to see if they can use the same method before they get that problem.
To use the same method.
Yes.
You know what, though? We have been doing occupational therapy for a while, but it's so expensive. Like, they wanted him to come twice a week, but for me, with my horrible insurance, it's $60 every time we go.
So what's occupational therapy? What is that?
So basically, they give you coping mechanisms and how to deal, how to process information, and he definitely needs it. And he was getting it for a time in school, but the kind that they give in school is different from the kind that they get when you go
privately. Yeah.
And they were like, "Well, keep them up," but it's like I can't afford it. I don't know. And I think that's the part that I feel really, really bad for. Like, I feel like I'm a bad parent because I know he needs it, but I can't afford it. And at one point, I was getting SSI. It was like $45 a month. And then they cut it off because now I make too much. Oh, well, it did move to $85. But they were like, I make too much.
Wow.
And at that point, he was doing occupational therapy and he was doing speech therapy, and this is all privately.
And so why was it necessary for the speech therapy? Is that usual with, does that come
I don't think it goes hand in hand
with
but,
autism?
With him, those R's,
Over.
the O, I think it's mainly the R's and the L's, honestly. That just don't, and I've worked with him. I've gone on YouTube University to figure out ways that I could do it myself.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was wondering if there was something on YouTube.
Speech therapist at the school, and at the school they're like, well, we don't see a problem. And at first they were saying it was the apparatus from his braces, but I mean, just when you were talking to him, you heard it because you had to correct him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and I think the school he's in now, it's a Title I school, so I feel like this school already gets overlooked for resources. Mm-hmm. Now I've already I've called who I need to call. That's how he was able to get what he needed in this school. Mm-hmm. But it's not. I think he still needs more, and I'm gonna have to figure out a way to get it back privately for him.
So Shane, is there anything that you want to say to maybe parents of other autistic kids?
Usually, being that I am autistic, I usually doing stuff with my hands usually helps me with that. Like sometimes if I get stressed out, I'll stop playing with a piece of paper or
like you've been doing sitting here with these little things in this paper.
Yes, and or when I get nervous, sometimes I will start drawing.
So you're nervous now?
No, sometimes
you stressed out now?
No, sometimes I just get nervous, and then like when I am taking a presentation, I get nervous sometimes, and then I start drawing, or usually just drawing in general. Meaning that drawing is like one thing that most kids can relate to. I feel like I have to fit in somehow, and then when I heard of drawing, I was like, maybe this can help me fit in. But no, that just made me more of a weird person.
So you don't feel like you fit in?
No, I feel like I fit in. It's not the same way as other people fit in.
Okay. Do you recognize other kids that may be autistic?
Well, not really, but sometimes I feel like most kids in the school have ADHD. Or most kids have short-term memory loss. Which I think I also have. Do I have short-term memory loss? I also have long-term.
You don't have any memory loss. You just have selective hearing.
Oh. Like, sometimes in the middle of hearing something that I really don't want to hear, my ears just close up, and then I can't hear it.
Yeah. So your ears close up most of the time when your mom is talking?
Well, yes. That's the easy way to put it.
So what's the hard way to put it?
Basically, if there's something that I want to hear, my ears will
perk up.
No, my ears will just open as wide as they can to let all the information flow.
Let all of the information flow.
But then, as I do, I hear someone talking about something, and then I want to join in the conversation.
I have a question.
Yes?
Why do you gravitate towards younger kids instead of kids your own age?
Being that they're annoying. I'm just straight up honest.
Who's annoying?
Most of the kids in 4th grade are just annoying.
So the kids that are your age or older, they're annoying?
Well, no, some people I actually like.
So why do you gravitate to the kids that are younger?
Because I can understand. Like most of the little kids have autism, as I not being that we both don't usually have good hearing.
Good listening skills?
Yes. Or other times when someone is talking, we both like blink out of the conversation, and then I'm just like, what am I supposed to do now? What am I supposed to do now? But then all of a sudden, sometimes I could hear something in the middle of that news, and then I get really angry because some people think it might be weird that I have an accent. Like, sometimes when I say my L's, R's, or some other letters, then, like, I have trouble hearing or no. What I mean is sometimes when I usually get very, very like stressed out. I'm like I need a break, but
A break from what?
like all these people, like most of these people I don't even know.
You talking about at school?
Yes, most of these people I don't even know. They just came in the same boat as me.
The same boat.
Yes, the same boat as me. And then I'm here, and like from the other kids and me, I just feel like there are like two common details that we have doing that.
So the things that you have in common are what?
The things that we have in common are like we both some kids like very strict food. Other kids just like cake.
Some people like really strict food, and some kids just like cake.
Yes.
But I need you to answer the question. So let me bring you back in. Why do you play with the younger kids and not kids your own age?
Because those kids are really, like, they talk about things I have no idea about, and I don't want to get something wrong so they know that I haven't played that game. So, in most of the little kids, I have either been in or have watched in my recent years of being a kid.
So you know the stuff that you're familiar with the things that they're going to talk about.
Yes. So I'm like, okay, this kid's talking about some weird game, but this kid, like the new kid, is talking about Mario, which I know a lot about.
Okay.
And I think, like, for me, I think that's partly my fault, because him growing up, we never really lived anywhere with a whole bunch of kids.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my friends had kids early, so their kids were already teenagers.
Right.
Nobody in my family had any kids that were around his age, really. Mm-hmm. So he's always been around older people. And then I think, I don't know, maybe I might have babied him a little too much or kept him really sheltered. But I also wanted to keep him a kid.
Now, you're not making a connection between that and the autism.
No.
I'm just why he gravitates to the younger kids. Right.
Yeah. You know what, though? Another thing with the autism is the exaggerations. He does that an awful lot.
Like what?
I mean, it could be the simplest of things. We'll be sitting having a conversation about pistachios. Mm-hmm. And he'll be like, you know what? My one friend said that pistachios. And I'll be like, Shane, nobody said that. Mm-hmm. Just say you said it.
Right.
And he'll be like, okay, I said it. And it's like, well, why are you telling such stuff? Like, you don't even, there's no need for that.
Right.
Or I think sometimes, too, he'll tell me things because he wants me to be ecstatic about it. Like, he'll tell me that he was the dodgeball champion of the whole school. Like, I'm already proud of you. You don't have to exaggerate anything. But then when I asked in my parenting group, like, does anybody else's child just make up and they're like, girl, yeah, that's nothing. You just wait until they get older. And it's like, oh my God.
So you play basketball now?
Yes.
How did you feel playing? Was this your first time playing the other day?
Well, not really. Being that.
But I mean, on a team. Was this your first time playing on a team?
No.
Oh. So do you like it?
Yes.
Does that kind of take your mind off of?
Yes. It's sort of like a sport that I do that takes my mind off of everything that's going on and just me focusing doing this. And also that dodgeball champion thing, I am.
He's the dodgeball champion.
I am.
Is that an exaggeration that you're talking about? Oh. That's like one of those exaggerations.
It's true.
So, the basketball. You're on a team. How does playing with a team affect your ADHD or your autism?
Well,
do you have to kind of really focus and like harness your anger?
No, it just feels like one teammate is like telling me to pass the ball to him, but the other teammate is asking me to pass the ball to him. So then I'm stuck in this endless whirlwind of confusion.
In a whirlwind of confusion.
Of which teammate should I pass the ball to? Because then when it's their turn to pass the ball, they won't pass the ball to me. But because I'm usually the one always closer to the goal.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also not the only person closer to the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm the closest person to the goal. But there are some people, like, this is someone who is right across from the enemy goal. So most people will try and get the ball to him so that way he can make an easy shot.
Right. Like an assist.
So why were, at basketball practice, why were you playing with the younger kids but not trying to play with the kids your own age?
Because, as I said, this gravitates to what we said before, that I have more experience of what the young
So in other words, your mother wasn't just listening a moment
Well, no,
ago.
because you're going to be playing with people your own age. So why wouldn't you practice with people your own age?
One, that's what practice is for, making new friends, right?
Yes, but at practice, you weren't trying to play with the kids your own age.
I know, but that's because most of the kids my own age talk about stuff I wouldn't, like, Mom, literally, in my whole basketball team, one person is close to my age, and guess how old they are?
Everybody's close to your age. You're on the 10 and under. So it's 9 and 10-year-olds.
Wait, I thought because it was 10 under, it would be like 10, 9, 8, 7.
There's an 8 and under for 8 and 7-year-olds.
Is there 1 year under?
Anyway, listen. Hopefully this podcast has enlightened you. Perhaps you have a child or children that are autistic or ADHD, and or relatives. But you know, the point is to kind of hear this from the perspective of someone who can actually articulate it. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, I hope you enjoyed it. Do me a favor, please hit the share button or the like button. Go ahead and hit follow or subscribe. The show is free. We drop a brand new podcast each and every Monday morning at 10 a.m. The show is archived, so you can always go back to the very first podcast from 2 years ago. It dropped on May 1st, back in, 2017, I think it was?
Wow.
But anyway, yeah, long time. But anyway, thank you for listening. Be safe and keep loving yourself. One of the best parts of life is when you can admit the truth to yourself about yourself. Cyberspace is a world where one can become something he isn't, but everything he dares to be. I wasn't interested in getting attached to anyone, and I knew I wouldn't take anyone I met online seriously. I had multiple screen names to increase my chances of meeting someone attractive. The majority of the profiles noted HIV negative under status, but I knew better from the work I had done in the HIV community. I knew 1 out of 3 black gay men was positive. The messages I found in my inbox validated me in my depression. In some strange way, they reinforced that I was worthy and deserving. My days consisted of waking up and logging on to see how many messages had accrued overnight. Months passed before I got honest with my therapist about what was happening with me. And before I knew it, I heard myself say, I've been having sex with people I meet online. To listen to more of Words Never Spoken in Memoir, visit audible.com.